This isn't good. I can't hear anything. Nothing. There, we got it.
Can you hear us now?
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks. Sorry about that. Something got unplugged.
I was asking all these questions. What else do we have to
Continue with the
find that one?
meeting. We'll start the roll call over. Director Lotiger.
Here.
Director Yuhan.
Here.
Director Schobert. Here. Director Tamero. Here. Director Sorkin.
Here.
Director Anderson.
Here.
And Director Reardon.
Present.
Director Addy is here, and Director Sunquist is not here tonight. Okay. Item 2, approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I would like to add an item under the consent agenda. Number 15, we received a retirement letter from Sue Austin. She'd like to be on tonight's agenda.
Item 15 as an 8.15?
As in 4.4.
4.
I would, and I have no problems with adding that, but is it appropriate under the consent agenda? Thought that was no discussion, no debate.
That's why I said if you want to put it somewhere else, put it somewhere else.
Well, we have 4.11 resignation for retirement. Resignation of some other resignations. So maybe that one shouldn't be on there either. Separate roll call vote. I don't know.
Oh, no, it's fine, but if not for discussion or debate, that's the whole idea behind the consent agenda. You can remove stuff and discuss it.
Director Reardon, would you like to place that somewhere else on the agenda for discussion?
The board would like to place it this evening.
Any input?
Move it to number 23, 8.23.
823.
And also I would like to propose on the administrative items on the agenda, 8.81. Job descriptions designed written up by the ASME unit. Roll call.
Okay.
which we all got copies of from Steve. Their approval.
So a question, if we're moving the retirement of Sue Osman off of the consent agenda, should we do the same for retirement of Paul Ottiger?
I guess I would think that the reason why we're putting Sue under 8.23 is because we just learned of it. Whereas Paul's, we did not. It was in board book and we were aware of that.
And we put it there specifically for discussion.
No, consent agenda, you just,
Right, but a consent agenda, the whole idea behind it is you have no discussion.
right. So you need to discuss her retirement, but not Paul's?
You can take item,
All this 411.
and if,
I know.
Discuss them separately, right?
so it can be put into the consent agenda.
And then take it off.
Somewhere.
We can.
So you're making a motion to move is to remove 4.11 to 8.224.
The same should be for Lynn Lawson and
Oh, yeah. All right, this is, I don't.
If there's no need to discuss them, they're in the appropriate spot.
All right. So that being said, with the two additions, to the agenda, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Support.
Tom made a motion.
Tom made a,
So moved.
you support?
Support Reardon.
Support Reardon? Favor,
Discussion though, so all retirement announcements will be under the consent agenda. Is that what we're voting on? To add 15.
yeah, Sousa's added, so that's why hers is at 8.23.
You're going to have it 8.23, okay.
That's what
And not just added, but with the intent to discuss is what I understood.
Correct.
I see it inconsistent myself, but go ahead.
Any more discussion on that? We have to do. Roll call on all.
Well, he's up there. He's on the screen, so I would.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No,
Okay. A recognition of visitor input. We have Mr. Tom Walton and Catherine Disterhoff that want to speak. Tom?
I'm Tom Alton from Evelyn. In the United States Supreme Court case, New York Times versus Sullivan, the court, in an opinion written by Justice William Brennan, reviewed the matter, quote, against the backdrop of a profound national commitment to the principle that debate on public issues should be uninhibited, robust, wide open, and that it may well include vehement, caustic, and sometimes unpleasant, sharp attacks on government and public officials. And I believe that the current policy revisions restrict freedom of speech as to the length of time on what items can be addressed and at what time on the agenda input is restricted to. And any restriction on freedom of speech, to me, equates to censorship. Policy revisions should be referred back to the policy committee, and a standalone policy on visitor input should be created after sufficient unrestricted discussion by all parties interested. As to the items, the staff letter of 2020, legal opinion, and the failure to vote on issues, and whatever else you're hiding in unfinished / where things go to die business agenda item, grow a spine.
6, we have Catherine Disterhoff. She here?
She is.
I'm here.
Oh, I thought she was.
Sorry. I am too busy. Take a little bit more time. Okay. I just need to know. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about was the smart boards. I'm opposed to smart boards at the younger age level because I've worked with smart boards as a substitute teacher. They have their own problems. And with younger kids, you can have some technology, but the way that they learn is hands-on doing that. And it did differentiate which smart boards were for what classroom. My biggest thing that I want to talk about was the budget. My problem that I looked at and actually trying to find what teachers were what positions. Before the schools combined, you're able to see like who taught what and what grade level. When you go to the Rockridge website now, it's a long list. You can't differentiate like what schools, what teachers go to what schools and everything. So I would suggest improving that so that you can actually find. And the other big thing that I saw with the list of teachers that their contracts weren't recommended for renewal is that a lot of them ended up being the Evelyn-Gilbert School District, which I have a big problem with because there should be at least 2 teachers per grade level, minimum. And if there isn't, then maybe those boundaries or something needs to be done for that. Second, again, with the public participation, there's enough issues with the time limit and now like with Zoom, how would you fill out a form? And all the different issues with that. With the time limit, I know I've had problems myself being censored with different things I've talked about. And then again, I'm against the building abatement. I feel that the school board and especially the superintendent has not given enough time to the different purchase offers that have been presented for those 2 buildings in the city of Evelyn for the historical school buildings to save that history of the community and keep that. And the last thing kind of tied with that is also related to the budget is that I think that the elementary school should keep their mascots kind of like what Duluth does, where they, like Lowell Elementary, for example, they keep the lions, and then they go to middle school, they get a different mascot, and they go to high school, different mascot. Because that would help keep some of the community and keep that connection to it. So you could still, and it would also save with money with regarding getting uniforms, as that's pretty costly. So keeping those, where the Evelyn Gilbert could still be the Golden Bears at the younger level, and then the Virginia could be the Blue Devils at the lower level. And then when they get to the high school and they all join together, then they could be the Wolverines. But I think separating that, because there's some issues, kind of differentiating teachers and where they are is the biggest thing. But again, the teachers, and I have a big problem with the fact that the board voted to put lighting up for the new schools at $525,000, or I don't know if it's 25 or 75. And now we're cutting teachers, and teachers are what teach my kids and other kids. So thank you.
Thank you. So up next is the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to present or to approve the consent agenda?
So
Support.
By Director Anderson, support by Director Lotiger. Any discussion?
Well, now that I would like to just, for purpose of discussion, just a quick question, pull the June 14th meeting minutes. 4.1.
Is there an issue with that, Polly?
I have a question.
What is the question?
Just ask me, I mean, I could just ask it now.
So we can get it corrected.
Oh, that's fine. On construction, Roman numeral 6. Yeah, I guess Catherine just referred to it, but I had a question of my own. The $575,000 for the athletic field lighting system. I guess I came away from the last meeting, thinking that we were going to be taking that out of the referendum money budget and finding some other places to cut and massage? Or is that coming out of the general fund? That's my question. If we've approved it, what funds is it coming out of?
Coming out of the construction account.
Well, that's what I was asking you before.
Members of the board, the intention, you can take it out of the construction fund. However, in talking to Spencer, a business manager, and Kraus Anderson, There is another way you can pay for it. You can take it out of it is not coming out of the general budget. Let me repeat. It is not coming out of the general budget. That's where teacher salaries come out of. It would come out of the facilities and maintenance revenue. The district gets X number of dollars a year for facilities and maintenance. We have buildings that are not going to be used in several years. And so there's revenue that comes in there every year. And so that is the money that we would be recommending to the school board as where that money is taken out of. You as a school board can tell us wherever you'd like to pay it from, but that would be our recommendation. So you're not touching the bond money and you're not touching the general supply budget.
So you're referring to the long-term facilities maintenance money? I understood that that's only for maintenance and repair because we have older buildings. Can we spend it on something new or new construction?
Yes, you can. There are certain rules that go along with that, and we have to follow the rules. But yes, you can use it for that.
Didn't we discuss last time also, when we decided on this, that it was going to be in certain payments, not all at one time?
Yes, because the money continually, with each passing year, additional revenue goes into that. And so it is
One chunk.
this is a one area that the school boards can use. That fund is very restrictive. You cannot use that to pay for teacher salaries. You cannot use it for other things. However, you can use it for building maintenance projects and other projects. You can use that for that.
My understanding is, just like a change order or something else, it's part of the capital construction project that
And you have to cut.
just like any change order that we approve, we got to cut some.
And that was my understanding, that we would have to spend that budget for this money, not,
And then if we want to dip into another and that comes to us for approval, we have that option.
You do, but I want to make sure the board understands that this is a big change order. This is not a small change order. And so there is a way you can pay for it. There is a way you can pay the lights on it. If you tell us you want it to come out of capital, which you can do, this is a big one. And we're cutting something really deep. We're talking $500,000 if it comes out of the bond issue. We can do it. But we think there's a way you can do it and it doesn't impact the bond issue and it doesn't impact the general fund.
And that's something we need to look at as construction goes on and we see how, the contingencies that I'm seeing are still extremely healthy for where we're at in the project and the amount of contingency that we've approved using.
Right, and then I'll sit down so the board can continue the deliberations. But the contingency funding, and you've heard Pat say this several times over, is that contingency slowly gets worn down. And it's almost better to think of it as not money you're going to have, because things come up that come out of the contingency fund. So you're probably better off as a board not planning on using and having that money. Maybe it's there, and if there is something there, then we'll all be happy.
Mr. Chair, my understanding was that we were going to take it out of the building fund, not the bond fund, out of what we are being allotted to put into our buildings. Because we're not doing major maintenance on our buildings right now. So that money can be used to buy the lights. Because why should, rather than put a new roof, let's say, on a building, one of our buildings, do a little patchwork and try to get it through until the elementary's open or the high school's open. So that's where that was my understanding last week. And it wasn't going to be coming out of the construction monies.
And that's what we said. It wasn't going to come out of construction money. It was going to be in segments, portions, over a spread amount of time out of that fixed money.
so should the minutes reflect where that money's coming from or not? Or we haven't really totally decided yet?
I don't recall that decision.
Yeah, so should the minutes reflect, we approved it, but we haven't decided where it's coming from?
Mr. Chair, just to,
Go ahead.
when I left that meeting, the directive to me, as I understood it, was to move forward with the change order, that it would be paid for out of deferred maintenance funds and not the referendum dollars. Now, if I misunderstood that, correct me and change whatever you'd like, but that is the way I have proceeded.
Well, if that's the case, I just think the minutes should reflect it, that's all.
Okay.
I don't believe that was discussed or decided.
Okay.
Ask Mr. Yuan, didn't he make the motion?
I remember just the way Pat said, out of the building fund. That's how I remember it. I made the motion.
All right. Any more discussion on that? Okay. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
All righty. Moving along to 5.1. Consider approval of the manual arts abatement package. Just let everybody know in the audience, it's abatement of the manual arts. It's not demolition of the manual arts. Is that correct, Pat?
That's correct.
Thank you.
I'll move that.
Support.
Moved by Director Schoberg.
we're going to have a presentation.
Gonna give a presentation.
Yeah.
Presentation?
Yeah, it's a presentation, I do believe, yeah. All right, sorry about that.
Hi, everyone. I'm Morgan. I'm the project engineer intern at Paul Sanderson this summer, and I'm here to present for the approval of the abatement package on the manual arts building. This is just kind of our agenda. We're going to go through the bidding process, bidding review, and then conclusion towards the end. So these are the things we've already done to get to where we are. We're now at the bidding and awarding stage, hopefully get through that soon. So when we did the bid, we got 3 bids received. Abaytech was the lowest bidder at $44,000. Out of the budget, $44,000 out of $7.5 million, is about 0.6% of that budget. Here is a graph to kind of show that. It looks like it got a little disconfigured, but you can kind of see in a graphical sense. This would be our schedule. So we had the pre-bid meeting on May 26th. We had the bid opening here on June 2nd. And then we are here today hoping to get this approved. We'd award the contract tomorrow, have the pre-construction meeting Wednesday, and then have the abatement for 2 weeks. All we're doing here is abating the asbestos and hazardous materials. So to conclude, that's all I have for you there.
So can you tell us at what part of the process the Preservation Office and the Historical Society,
We personally do not deal with that. That would be more for the school district. What I do know is abatement needs to be done. There's stuff in there that needs to be taken out either way.
Is that something that can go ahead though without that process finished?
That would be something for the school district.
Pat, can you shed some light on that?
Yes, there's an application in right now to SHPO, which is the organization at the state level for the demolition of the building. That is separate from the abatement process. You can abate hazardous materials out of a building regardless if it's on the register or not. And that is all we're asking for right now. And just as a little bit of context, there was some abatement in the past. I believe you were on the board at the time when Evelyn School District voted to do abatement in there, and that abatement just wasn't done complete. There were some additional items that were not identified, so they were not abated, and that is all we're taking out of that building at this time. The demolition portion, we have bids on that, and those have been tabled until that approval for demolition comes through the state. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so you said when you have an application in for demo from SHPO, that's, is that preservation? board?
Historical Preservation Office, yeah.
Does that include that AW report, the environmental worksheet? Is that what the application is?
Yes, and I'll let Mr. Carey just give you an update on the status of that application.
That's what I was looking for.
As part of that AEW that you're asking about, the SHPO letter has to be that, and then that will go to the city. So once the SHPO letter comes, that'll get packaged in with the AEW report or worksheet, and that goes to the city then.
So the city is the governmental unit responsible for
They
that?
are.
Okay, finally determined that? Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any more discussion? Thank you. So on that being said, can I get a motion to accept the,
We have Solberg and Anderson. Yes.
so Director Schoberg made the motion. And support by
Anderson.
Anderson to accept the bid of $44,000 to finish the abatement on the Manual Arts Building. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Item number six is reports, 6.1, November 2, 2021 special election. Given that report there, Noel. Deputy
I think
Stacy.
the report is, don't want to steal her thunder. Would you like to get the board
Sure,
on, just because Stacy deals more with that.
Okay, thank you.
So 6.11, I just included the timeline for the upcoming special election, so you can be aware of resolutions and notices that are coming up. We have one on the agenda today. And then the next item is not for voting. We'll put it on the July agenda. It's just that resolution calls the special election. And the only item in that resolution are the polling hours that you can discuss. It is a standalone school board election. The requirement for us outside the metro would be the minimum acceptable time frame is 5 to 8 p.m. So it's up to you what you want the polling places to be open for that election.
We've typically done 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., right?
Yep, for the past few, yes. So it's not, I got some information from MSBA. The typical turnout rate is 1 to 25% of voters that would come to a standalone school board election. So there won't be as many as your typical election. So shorter hours might be an option. Noon to 8, 10 to 8. So
I would make the recommendation just with the past that we've had in the old Evelyn Gilbert School District that we, may open all polls from regular polling hours from 7 to 8. And then, I wouldn't do a condensed polling place. I mean, I don't know how the board feels about having condensed polling places.
Is that
but
something we're going to discuss in July? Is that what you said? We're making that decision?
We already determined that in December. You have to do that before the first of the year, right? Our polling places?
yeah, we did combine the
But the
polling
time.
If we could discuss that, and then I could prepare the resolution with those hours.
I'm with Bill. I say 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Yep.
Just like we've done in the past.
Well, that's for July anyway, but, so we did combine polling places and they'll be the same as the last election. I know Virginia all votes at the minors, wherever
Good luck, yeah.
their new one is.
Well,
And
that's
then
in November? Or
Yeah.
when are we?
This one. This one is November.
November 2nd.
Building will be open in November.
And then we've condensed in Evelyn and Gilbert, a couple of them at the auditorium, but we still had the West Evelyn one open, and I don't know if we had, but that's already taken care of. That will just be a notice to the people.
Yes, we have 5. We determined in December to have 5 polling places between the 2 former districts.
Okay.
Okay. All righty. So is that it for 6.1, 6.11, 6.12? Okay, we're all good there, Stacy?
I'll move the resolution calling for a special election.
Or
Moved by Director Sorkin, support by Director Lotiger. Any more discussion?
And this one will not be an at-large one yet. I believe we're sticking to the one from the former, Virginia, just so people know, and one from the former Evelyn Gilbert district.
For our consolidation plan.
No, for the.
Well, for the election, but that was as part of our consolidation plan, that seat remains, or those seats remain, one in the former Virginia district and one in the former Evelyn Gilbert district.
Correct.
That's what you
Correct.
said.
Okay, any more discussion on 6.1.2? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 6.2 Superintendent. 6.21 Teachers Negotiations Update.
Thank you, Chair Addy. Just want to give a quick update to the board on the negotiations. Later in the agenda, you have the AFSCME tentative AFSCME contract, and you got an updated copy in front of you. That's the one you are voting on. There's some very minor changes on there that don't impact the wording of it. That contract, it took a long time, but I will say this, that AFSCME negotiators, it was a very respectful process. These are always difficult when you're merging 2 contracts together. These are the most difficult ones, and they typically take the longest. It was a good process. It worked. And so later on, you have for your consideration, the tentative AFSCME contract. And the AFSCME union has voted on it, and they have approved it. As to where are we at with the teachers one, we have been meeting with the teachers. There's a school board negotiation committee. I spent 3 or 4 hours with some of you today on the teacher negotiations. That will be going for a while because we have to go through wording and everything else. So that one will take a little bit longer, but that one also started later. The AFSCME one had started much earlier than the teacher one. So we are working our way through it. I don't have a guess as far as when we'll be through with it, but we are working our way through it. And I would say the process so far is going well. Both sides have been very courteous and respectful of one another. And these are difficult things to have. Let me stop and say, any questions on the contracts?
So the rank and file of AFSCME has accepted the contract. What was the percentage of positive votes?
That is, they did not tell me that. They just said that it had passed.
Okay, so we don't know that.
Yeah, their leadership said that it had passed. Moving on to the next topic up there, just want to give the board and the public an update on where we were at. We still are planning on having some type of a sale online, in person, of some school items that we no longer need. We are merging into one school district. There are some buildings that are not going to be used. There's some materials and things inside those buildings that we are not taking with us and we don't need. In addition to that, we have a number of uniforms. We have the new Rockridge uniforms. So we have a number of older uniforms that we would like to make available to the public to have them. We're figuring out the best way to do that. It probably will be a combination of some of the items will be show up in person and some of them might be online. And so we're working on that. Jeff over here, that's his summer job, is to come up with the process so it works. but you can expect that to happen sometime in the early August. And that may be occurring on multiple sites. There might be one in Virginia, Roosevelt School. There might be one at the Gilbert campus because of the Gilbert campus, and there also could be one on the Evelyn campus. So we're still working forward, and we believe that we're still on target for that to occur. And we've heard clearly from the board that the board feels that the general public, on any item we don't need, that the public should have a shot at trying to obtain it. Any questions on that?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Noel. Moving along to item number 7.1, 206, public participation regarding school board meetings, complaints about persons at school board meetings and data privacy concerns. Final reading. Can I get a motion to approve that?
So moved, Reardon.
By Reardon. Support by? Amaro. Any discussion? In favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 7-1. Administrative items, consider approval of the 2021-2022 concurrent enrollment contract with Vermilion College. Can I get a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Moved by Schoberg, support by Lotiger. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. 8.2, consider approval of concurrent enrollment contract between Rockridge Schools and Lake Superior College effective until June 30, 2022. Can I get a motion to approve that? Moved by Director Reardon.
Nope, Anderson.
Anderson, okay. Support by? Support. Yeah, Director Tamero. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Consider approval of donation agreement between the City of Virginia and Independent School District 2909. I get a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Director Tamero, support by Director Lotiger. Any discussion?
So is there not anywhere in any of the new schools that this mural could be put or build a wall or something for it? It's so appropriate in a school. Noel?
Yes, I can probably answer that question. The answer is no. It has not been designed into any of the buildings. That has not been planned. It's a large mural. We currently do not have plans to put it into a building. Most of the people who I've talked to, and this mural donation predates me by many, many, many years. It's been there a long time. I haven't run into a single person who has said moving it from Roosevelt to the miners complex to the city of Virginia is a bad idea. I've run into a couple of people who said, well, maybe we should take it to the newer buildings, but the vast majority of people that I've been talking to, they think it makes sense. But no, we're not planning a space in the new buildings.
Any more discussion on 8.3?
Do you know if there are any stipulations when that mural was donated of what could or could be done with it in the future? I know the one in the Evelyn Franklin School, there's some stipulations of what can or can't be done with that one. The one that, it used to be the cafeteria and then it became the media center. And it's actually owned by someone else other than the school district. And I think it might be on some historic preservation too. I just was wondering if there were any things in the history of that mural in Virginia too.
Mural, members of the board, the mural in the Franklin building, that's what you're talking about, which is a little more, it's almost a two-story-ish. It's a taller one. That one we haven't even broached and talked about what to do with that one because we know we're going to have kids in the Franklin building for a number of years forward. So we have not taken a look at that mural yet, but we will have to take a look at what to do with that mural. Of course, we are still hoping that someone with the Franklin building, because that's probably the part of the building in the Evelyn campus that's in the best shape, that, speaking only for myself, that when we were going around to the community, we did hear from community members saying they would really like to repurpose a building. That is the building that is in the best shape of all the buildings. And so that's a building that speaking only for myself, that a potential buyer would come through for that particular building. But that's a different topic then.
So there are no other strings or stipulations on this mural like on the Evelyn one? Okay.
No.
Okay.
And the city will move it. The city will take care of all of that. And I believe they will move it very carefully.
I would.
Beautiful.
I wouldn't think there'd be any, there's no documentations on stipulation of these murals, is there, that you speak of, Polly? I mean.
Yeah, there are. There actually are.
Oh,
I was contacted by some people.
okay.
So look at.
Virginia's 90
Yeah.
feet long.
Hmm?
There was no place to accommodate. And I was the only one that was opposed to this, and now I've given up because the miners can't fit it. We can't.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to know.
8.3, can I, all in favor signify by saying aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 8.4, consider approval of the 2021-2022 health insurance by Mr. On.
Good evening. We went out for bids this year on our health insurance. Again, this one is interesting because we have two contracts and we have two different types of insurance between the old districts. But we did ask for quotes from Blue Cross Blue Shield for the traditional J plan, the VIBA plan that was in the old Virginia district, and we asked PEEP to give us quotes on the insurance that was in the old Evelyn Gilbert district. So we did receive bids from three different parties, one from the Northeast Service Co-op for the Blue Cross Blue Shield plans, one directly from Blue Cross Blue Shield for the plans, and then one from PEEP. We did then go out to each of them and ask them for one last best offer that they could give us. And we did receive additional savings from the Northeast Service Co-op and from Blue Cross Blue Shield directly. The PEEP plan did not submit a second bid. Their first one was their best offer, they said. So good news in the rates that we did receive. The recommendation is to accept the Northeast Service Co-op insurance pool as they were the lowest bidder at a 25% decrease in the traditional J plan and between a 20.8 and a 22.1% decrease for the VIBA plan. Those also put the monthly premium at less than what the PEEP rate is. So that would be the recommendation at this point. I know we still have contracts that are being negotiated. That's a piece that we have to go through, and PEEP has a different, theirs runs January through December, where Blue Cross Blue Shield runs September 1 through August 31st. So there will be some things that we'll have to work through as the contracts are coming together. But, very good news for us. And I think good news going forward, as I think there's going to be a lot more competition for our health insurance than there has been in the past.
So Spencer, I think you told us another time that once those bids are opened, you couldn't tell anybody what those bids were for how many days?
Correct. 15 days you can't after.
15 days. And then after that, those 15 days, then did we approach all three of them for any like best and final bid?
We did that right away. You can go out and ask them for the best and final bid. And we did ask for best and final from both or from all three, but we only received best and final from two.
Okay, but that was within that 15-day no revealing?
Correct.
Okay. And then the other thing I noticed is that, and I think you mentioned it too, that in the second year, the service co-op plan is going to switch over to Medica.
Right. So if we keep it for 2 years, they are switching to Medica. And that's why I say I think we're in a good spot for competition. And I think we should go out in a year from now and get quotes again, especially because it's Medica and our employees aren't used to a Medica plan, and I think we should look at that and be able to make sure that it matches the plan that we currently have.
But isn't that a kind of a big unknown to go with the service co? That Medica one is going to be different? This only goes for, let's see, 20, this is for 1 year?
My recommendation is accept it for 1 year, and then a year from now that we would go out again, knowing that they're moving to Medica. This one is not moving to Medica yet. Doesn't move to Medica until September 1 of 2022.
Right, but then the other part of this says the guaranteed maximum rate is lower for a straight Blue Cross Blue Shield, 5.5% versus 7% for service co-op. So there's a percentage and a half too that.
There is, and I put both the premiums and estimated what it would be if they gave us each the maximum. And the Northeast Service Co-op is still lower in the second year, even though it's a 7% increase versus a 5.5% increase. The actual monthly premium is still lower on Northeast Service Co-op.
That's not on this chart.
I did not write it on that chart, but I did do the math and it does equate to that.
In total dollars?
Yes.
To be noted, though, that the Northeast Service Co-op in the first round did come out to be higher, but then in the second final bid, they were under by just a little bit.
Correct.
Any more discussion on 8.4? Get a motion to approve
So moved.
health insurance.
Or
A motion by Anderson, support by Director Lotiger. All in favor?
No, I just want clarification.
Okay.
For a 1-year contract, correct?
yes.
Okay, just so that it's in there.
Any more discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
One abstention.
Ooh,
Me.
all right. 8.5, consider approval of the 2021-2022 property liability and workman's compensation insurance.
Yeah, so we did receive our quotes for next year for property, liability, and workers' comp. So the first one I'll talk about is property and liability. This is the one we've talked about a couple times in committee because EMC Insurance is who we currently have our insurance through, and they hold our builder's risk for the construction, that we should continue to go with them until that is final, the construction is final. We did receive a 5% increase from EMC for our property liability. I did ask why that increase. They did actually first give us an 11% increase, and Mr. Linseth was able to negotiate them down to 5%. Right now, the industry average is between 10 and 35% of the increases they're seeing in property and liability. So we were able to get it lower. It's a total of $15,686 increase from last year's insurance. And then the second one is our workers' comp insurance. We get that through RAM. And that one is an increase of 22% from last year. We've had several workers' comp claims from our full-time staff over the last probably year and a half, 2 years. And that's really increasing our experience mod. So that's, the state actually calculates that rate, and it gets calculated on your workers' comp rates. So right now it's 1.85. So if it's kind of a normal year for workers' comp or several years, you'd be at a 1 and we're at a 1.85. So that obviously increases our workers' comp. If we can knock that experience mod down over the year, then we'll see a decrease next year in workers' comp. So we are meeting with our insurance agent quarterly to try to close out any workers' comp issues that we have. The sooner we can close them out, the sooner they're off of our mod and we can get back closer to a 1 would be ideal. But for right now, it is a 22% increase on our workers' comp.
I have a couple questions. I asked the question before about Jeff, when you were the super, and I remember some of you were on the board and you had different board members, you went out for quotes and bids because we had had the same insurer for many, many years. And isn't there some rule, regulation, or statutory language that every so many years you have to go out for them? So it's not just a monopoly. I'm not saying this is, but I'm just wondering why, how many years has that been? Are we in that time period? And why aren't we going out for these insurance quotes and bids?
We're a brand new district, so
I know, but,
so it's our first year.
well, you take on each other's liabilities and assets when you combine, so are we required?
We are not required because this is a service that we go for. And
Really?
yeah. And
So we could.
Mr. Linseth does typically on a year, he will go to several different insurance companies, not just EMC. He would go to all the major ones and see what kind of bids and quotes that we can get from those insurance companies. And then he works on our behalf to help get those lower. We certainly can go out for
How about
an agent in the future.
The agent, yes. Yeah.
However, like we have discussed, often these agents, he's with EMC right now. So I don't think if we went to a different agent, EMC would go with that agent to give us our insurance because they have a relationship as well. So while we're still with EMC, I think we should stay with this agent. Once we want to switch and look, then we can vote. And I would suggest, one, we go out for an RFP for an agent, and then two, we would have that agent go out to the different insurance companies to give us the best quote.
Okay, so I guess that's what I was referring to. I was saying it in different terms, but is there any requirement of soliciting a new agent every so many years?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, why did you guys do it then? You went and got another agent. We had bids from about 3 different places, and we did that before.
It's prudent.
I can't remember.
In Virginia as well.
Yeah.
After a few years, we would do that. We wouldn't do it every year, but we would do that.
And then does this kind of a contract fall under the competitive bidding laws, that anything over, what is it, $175,000 has to go through a different process? Because this is quite a bit of money, what, $330,000 just for the EMC one?
Right. Because it's insurance, I think it falls under a different rule.
You think it does? We're certain of that?
Not, but I will definitely find out for you, Polly.
Okay. Because I understand insurance is something that falls under competitive bidding, so
Okay.
I'd want to be sure of that.
8.5, can I get a motion to approve?
I will make the motion to approve.
Dr. Lotiger, support by?
Support.
Oh. Dr. Schoberg, any discussion on this? Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion passes 7-1. Okay. 8.6, consider finalizing and approving the 2021-2022 school district budget.
Me again?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is, I think, the 4th time I've come to the board with the budget. So over kind of what we started, I believe it was back on March 22nd was the first board meeting. And, first we'll go. Back a little bit. Okay, so the first thing we do when we start working on the budget is looking at student numbers and assumptions. Remember back on March 22nd, I did present the numbers to you on what we would estimate for students coming in for next year. And at that time, I also asked if you guys would agree with those assumptions, and if you wanted to change those assumptions. And I had not heard anything until the personnel committee last week, what I understand, and there was a lot of dialogue about not liking what these numbers were and where these numbers came from. So I did want to put it up here so everybody is reminded of where these numbers came from. Back on February 1st is the date we took those numbers as we were preparing for that March meeting. And we took what was in each grade level. We used the state of Minnesota's kind of retainage formula. They will look and give us a 20-year diagram of moving from kindergarten to first and how many kids we retain in those grade levels all the way through. So what we did, we took the 3-year average for the old Evelyn Gilbert district, the 3-year average for the old Virginia district, and kind of combined them on a 2/3, 1/3 to come up with a retainage factor. And that's what we used. And those numbers came in with a decrease of 56 students over this year. That's a 2.3% decrease. The reason we did that is we thought we would use the history to give us the most conservative estimate that we could, especially knowing that the pandemic is affecting our students, how many are coming in. So we wanted to make sure we were conservative. We'd rather come in with more students in the fall, and I think we're all hoping we have more students in the fall, but we also have to prepare in case we don't get them. So, and then the second page is just more history, or the third page, sorry, Mike. The third page is just a graph of historical and where we've been as the two districts coming together. And you can see we are less over the last 19 years. End of each year, you can see we have gone down in enrollment. So I don't think it's crazy that we use those retainage numbers to estimate. And also, I'll back up. For kindergarten, we did ask our principals what they thought we'd have coming in kindergarten, and that number was 150, which is pretty close to what we had this year. So that's the number we're continuing to use. I do know that kindergarten often we'll get an influx here in August coming in. I haven't checked now for a little while, but I think we're at just over 140 last I checked, total kindergarten. So we're hoping to get to that 150 or more mark in kindergarten. So then the next page, after the graph. There. So this is, we've looked at elementary class size. And we'll get to the options in a second, but remember, going back to June 14th, we were asked to bring 4 different budget options to the table. And the rest of these reports are using option D. And I think that's the one that we are recommending tonight that gets adopted is option D. That is with the 56 teachers. We brought the one with 56 elementary teachers right there, at that first March one, and then it dropped to 54 teachers. There's 2 more reductions at the end of May, and that was one of the options. Option D is having those 2 teachers still part of the teaching staff, so that's where that 56 is an option.
And then there's a change there with the 6th grade as well.
Yeah, so that would go back, that 6th grade was there, I believe, on that March 22nd, was still having 3 in there. So the change at the end of May was making that a 2. This is making sure that goes. If you go to the next page, not the diagram, but our revenue assumptions. So at the time and all the way through, really last week, we've been estimating a 1% increase in basic aid. Another sign of good news was last week, we're hearing now 2.45%. Today, it's not final yet, but that's good. Coming from Minnesota, that's gonna definitely help our budget going forward. And another reason why option now is the recommendation. We also have our ESSER dollars. We are using all of ESSER $2, which is just under $2 million to kind of plug that funding gap for this coming school year. And we have not earmarked the 4.4 million in ESSER 3. That is probably going to be needed to plug next year and possibly the following year, depending on students coming in and things like that, to plug that hole. And those funds can be used through fiscal year 24. So we do have to put in an application by October 1st on those funds. And we'll see how often we can change it after that. I think they'll allow us to change it through 24, but we'll get more information on that. Our expense assumptions included $1 million in employee contract settlements as we bring all of our contracts together. So hopefully we'll get that teacher contract done soon, and if you approve the AFSCME, we'll have more of an idea of where these numbers are going to end up. Again, this whole budget has so many unknowns because of the consolidation, because of the unknowns with the pandemic and ESSER funds and students. So we will be bringing.
I would imagine we've costed the tentative AFSCME contract. And is that in line with the $1 million guess between AFSCME and teacher if there's a?
Yes, it's right in line.
Between everything.
Yep, we're looking at that 4.8% is kind of the number that we've used for the contracts, and that matches. Correct, yep, good question. And then funds 2, 4, 7, 8, kind of all the other funds that aren't the general fund. At this time, we're just estimating that those funds are going to remain the same revenue and expense until we get all the information from the state of Minnesota when the legislature finally approves their budget and we know any changes that are happening there. So again, that will be one that we'll bring to a revised budget early this fall after we see how many students come in the door that first day and a better idea. And then the next page is just kind of overall option D again, how much we're spending in each fund. And as you can see, kind of net on the bottom, the general fund, we have $15,000. So basically out of a $37 million budget, we're spending what we're taking in at this point. With the caveat that we do have those ESSER $3 that we have not earmarked anywhere yet. So we do have some funds there if the pandemic comes back or things like that, so that we can handle any changes we need to at the last minute. So then you'll get to the big sheet. I got one on each of your desks. This is the same one that we brought to the board on June 14th. The same options. I did highlight the one option D that is not making those 2.0 FTE teacher reductions that we talked about at the last meeting, but it is having the third new bus, and it does purchase the curriculum, all of the curriculum. I think one of the options was not doing 3 through 6. Was that the correct? Was not doing 3 through 6. And talking to the curriculum committee and transportation, we really don't think we should kick those expenses down the road anymore. Just to make sure we have safe busing and that curriculum that everybody's on the same page teacher-wise, they're using the same. And with the health insurance bids that came in better and the state giving us an additional 1.45 that we weren't expecting, I think that's why this option D we think is a good option. So open it up for questions, which I'm sure you have.
Well, I asked my questions when I contacted you today. I just wanted to know what everything meant because I'm not good with numbers. So I wanted to just clarify what everything meant, and you explained it quite well. Thank you very much. And you also explained how we obtained money now that we didn't have 2 weeks ago, and we're looking at a different picture than we were 2 weeks ago. So I appreciate you taking the time to do that.
And I will say the legislature's not done yet, so that 2.45 is not guaranteed, but everything we're hearing from multiple outlets is that that's what hopefully ultimately be signed.
That would be an increase of about 270,000 in revenue?
Yes.
From the 1% projection?
Correct. Yeah, so very good news for us. And then the savings, that health insurance should really help us.
Although I'm
taking, did you have more for discussion?
Yeah. I pulled some charts off the website today that just came out from the department this weekend.
Okay.
And specifically Rock Ridges, they have listed every school district and what they're actually going to be getting for those 2 years for 2022 and 2023. And although it's a formula increase of 2.45, 2.45, particularly for Rock Ridge, it turns out to be 3.6 for fiscal year 2022 and 5.4. So each school district gets a little different funding and money, and you might get more for this and less for that, and sparsity and this and that. So our district gets about almost $11,000 per student. So we're getting even more than just this general whatever, so.
Correct. There's some language that is increasing special education funding, and some other of the kind of the smaller pieces of funding that comes in. Like I said, once we know everything that's in those bills and that we can have those exact dollars amount, that's where we'll bring it to a revised budget and we'll have those dollars.
Okay, but the picture is looking much better, and we're talking about cutting teachers a little bit later or whatever. And the total revenue increase, this is right hot off the press, 3.5% in the first year for Rock Ridge and 5.3. And it's almost the same as what the general fund increases are. So I'm just saying we can anticipate more money than what we're budgeting for. And it's good to budget lean rather than over. I know that, but.
Yep. And that's why I just mentioned that both of those are good things for the budget.
And as you mentioned earlier, the Personnel Committee did meet last week, and with the information that we had at that time, I think the recommendation of that committee was going to be to delay the purchase of the third bus and delay the purchase of the curriculum and retain those 2 teachers. But with the new information that we're receiving and the recommendation that we're getting from Spencer tonight with option D, I'd like to make the motion to approve option D, as well as remove 8.20 and 8.21, Matresa Stryer and Cody Baker from the list of non-renewals.
I'll support it. Any discussion?
I do understand, though, that we can maybe even take the buses out of there. What fund would that be coming out of? Because I understand you can buy vehicles and buses with some ESSER funds or gear funds. And so maybe we can use it out of that pot instead of, would this be general fund money?
Right now, it's in general fund. We certainly could, especially with the ESSER 3.
Right.
Use it out of there, but right now it is.
Okay, so there's a big difference. That makes our fund balance bigger by $100,000.
But what you're saying is we can make the decision. Do we have to make that decision right now?
We can have a revised budget later, but.
Yeah, because.
Your way.
I've also heard a little bit about that, taking the bus out of the ESSER funds, and that would be more advantageous, I think, for our district to do that rather than where teacher salaries come out of.
And I think that'll be a bigger discussion as we get into what are we going to do for that October 1st? What are we going to do?
Okay.
This is just one bus, right, Spencer?
One addition.
We approved 2.
We've approved 2. This was the third bus.
So we got motion by Director Lotiger and support by Director Addy on 8.6 to consider finalizing the approval of the 2021-2022 budget with the removal of 8.20 and 8.21.
Option D.
Using option D. Any more discussion on that? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All righty. Consider. It's all right. Consider 8.7, consider approval of tentative collective bargaining agreement between Independent School District 2909 and AFSCME Council 65, local union number 3. Can I get a motion?
Wait, I think you skipped something.
No?
Wait, am I off then?
We're at 8.7.
8.7.
Oh, okay.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Director Tamro, support by
Anderson.
Director Anderson. Any discussion?
I'd just like to thank the negotiating committee for their hard work and getting us to this point.
Exactly. It's a lot of time.
It is a lot of time, but I am going to vote no because the board never had a closed discussion about, the full board never had a closed meeting discussing any of this and the direction to give the negotiating committee. Also, there hasn't been an AFSCME negotiating committee and board committee meeting since March. And between March and now, I don't know where all this work got done, not in committee meetings. there weren't public meetings. I surely would have sat in on them to know what was going on. So I don't know where all these agreements came between the last AFSCME committee meeting with the board and now. So I don't like operating that way.
I would agree with one part of what you're saying, Polly. I think that this is new territory, you know, as a consolidated group. And I agree with you regarding we should have more updates from committees in closed session or out of, you know, in public session, whatever. I do agree with you on that.
And we did talk about that last.
Yeah.
Well, now we're coming,
I agree with that also.
now we're coming to a vote and,
Sure.
and even these job descriptions. There's tons of them. Have we really had time? And even if I've heard from people from AFSCME, they had no idea that their union signed off on these job descriptions. So they would like more information too. I don't, you know, that's their business. But on our side, they were all thrown to us at the Personnel Committee meeting. And then now tonight, the rest of the board got all of these. Adequate time to really make an informed decision? I think not.
Well, I think you got to trust in your committees to make the decisions and bring them forward to the.
Give me that trust thing. Come on.
Okay, all right.
I want to be a fully informed board member, whether I'm a committee member or not.
Well, at our last board meeting, Polly, I did say that we could have a closed session to look at the contract before we voted on it this week, and nobody wanted that to happen. So you can't have it both ways.
I would, it's just the majority didn't. I totally support that.
Never came to a motion.
I made the suggestion that we had a working session last Monday or last week so that we could look at the contract, because we were told it was done. We were waiting for certification from ASME, and nothing was ever done. So next time we can look at the contracts before we vote on.
I think next time we should meet as a board in closed session first and then go out into committee meetings. Then you get full direction from the board. That's the way Evelyn Gilbert used to do it. And Virginia did it differently, but there's more ways to skin a cat. And I think that's a good way to do it. So we all have input.
And I think that, you know, those of us that have been concerned about that have voiced our opinion, both in a public meeting as well as contacting Noel. So he's aware that that's something that we would like to see happen going forward in the future. So.
And we could still do that with a teacher's contract and have a closed session. And plus, we've got some administrative contracts that are individual contracts. We're not even talking about them at this point. Where do they fit into the timeline and the situation? Because there might be, in my mind, there are situations in that group of people where some people.
We need to stay on topic for the consideration of approval of the AFSCME agreement.
All right, I'll grant you that.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. 8.8, consider approval of tentative AFSCME seniority list as a list.
No.
We're going to add that at 8.11, the job descriptions. 8.81.
Right.
Said that was.
The packet that we got this evening from.
That is correct. You didn't let me finish my sentence, brother.
So noted.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So we're going to consider the approval of the AFSCME seniority list as of July 16th, 2020, plus add the job descriptions onto it. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve that?
So moved.
By Director Tamero. Support.
Reardon.
Director Reardon. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 7-1. 8.9, resolution establishing dates for filing affidavits for candidacy.
So moved.
This is roll call vote. It says on every one, we have to roll call on this. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Resolution.
Director Lotiger,
Yes.
Director Yuhan,
Yes.
Director Schoberg,
Yes.
Director Tamero,
Yes.
Director Sorkin,
Yes.
Director Addy's a yes. Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Reardon.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. 8.10, consider resolution relating to the termination and non-renewal of teaching contract Tammy Irvin. Director Lotiger,
Yes.
Director Yuhan,
Yes.
Director Schoberg,
Yes.
Director Tamero,
Yes.
Director Sorkin.
Yes, but we didn't have any discussion period.
Do we discuss termination of employees?
See why not?
Okay, get that the next one. Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Reardon,
Yes.
Director Addy's a yes. Okay, so how would you like to address that? 8.11, consider resolution relating to the termination or renewal of teaching contract Sharon Bauman.
Shannon.
Shannon Bauman.
So my questions here are, we've got a whole list of names. I don't know if the personnel committee or the budget committee or just administration is making these recommendations. I don't know what their job is. I don't know why we need a reduction. I mean, just to have names to terminate, what building, what's just what I said. Are we eliminating a position? Is it because of student enrollment? Is it class size? I just feel uncomfortable.
But at the Evans Gilbert District, we didn't do that. We just had a list of people and we didn't tell why if they were reduced. We just.
Not want to know as a board member why you're laying somebody off or terminating them? And maybe you say.
That's a budgetary thing. I mean,
It is.
probably.
It's like Brandy now, she pulled, which I agree with, the two people, she pulled that because there was more information. I mean, that's exactly my point, is having more information of knowing why. Otherwise, we would have gone through this whole list and we would have terminated all of them, right? Because we knew a little bit more and we had a meeting and then we had some more discussions and then the budget changed a little bit. Now we're pulling two off. Maybe, and I'm not saying that we should, but
you were at the
I'm making
meeting and
my
I
point.
think, weren't these names on that list? Am I correct, Noel?
They were on the list to be terminated.
Correct.
Now we've
Why are you asking
changed.
now? You could ask that question.
I'm just saying, I'm giving that as an example for all the rest of these. We don't know the situation, and maybe as a board, we hire, we fire, we do a budget. Do we even
We
know?
also listen to the recommendations of the administration.
That's what we have administration for.
I didn't hear the administration recommending to keep those, Matresa and Cody, but it came from the personnel committee.
Yes,
Superintendent.
update for you on that, members of the school board. The personnel committee saw all of these names. The building they were in was explicitly listed. There was a clear breakdown between those names who were being recommended. Unfortunately, this is part of the rough job that we have to do. It's a tough part, I get it. It's a horrible thing, making decisions and recommendations on who is staying, who is not. The personnel committee saw that list. It was an open meeting. There was a specific list that said who was being recommended as budget cuts. There was another specific list that had names that were not related to budget cuts that we were recommending not be brought back for performance reasons. And so that was brought up, and Polly, you were at the meeting, and those items were specifically brought up in the meeting.
So to say you didn't know why they're being terminated kind of blows my mind.
Well,
I've been on the school board for almost 20 years, and this is the hardest job that we do. And I don't know who should not be renewed and who should be terminated. It's our administration that gives us the information so that we can go ahead and do it. They go into the classroom, they see these teachers, this is a tough part, and I hate it, but it's something that we have to do, and we don't have to make it last any longer, in my opinion, than we have to.
There were reasons given for budget, for class sizes, for performance. I don't know.
Some of it's personal though, and you can't say it.
Well, I know, but,
Okay, then if you can't say it, we don't need to know it.
well, how could some of us, Tim, say that the recommendation was because somebody wasn't up to par and the rest of us had no knowledge of that? Which is something that I've been told that you have said. And so all I'm saying is I want all board members to have all the information. I don't care if we have a committee meeting or a committee to make these decisions. So just because the three of us on the committee got a list and I'm actually advocating for the rest of you board members, as I would advocate for myself, not being on another committee, to want to have all the reasons so you can make an informed decision. You might disagree with our personnel committee recommendation, but you don't know because all you have is a list of names and a termination. That's all. That's all I wanted to say.
8.11, consider resolution relating to the termination, non-renewal of teaching contract Shannon Bauman. Director Lotiger.
Yes.
Director Yuhan.
Yes.
Director Schoberg.
Yes.
Director Tamero.
Yes.
Director Sorkin.
No.
Director Anderson.
Yes.
Director Reardon.
Yes.
Director Addy is a yes. Motion passes. 8.12, consider resolution relating to the termination, non-renewal contract of Melinda Asama. Director Lotiger.
Yes.
Director Yuhan.
Yes.
Director Schoberg.
Yes.
Director Sorkin.
No.
Director Tamero.
Yes.
Director Anderson.
Yes.
Director Reardon.
Yes.
Director Addy is a yes. 8.13, consider resolution relating to the termination, non-renewal of teaching contract Peyton Worley. Director Lotiger.
Yes.
Director Yuhan.
Yes.
Director Schoberg.
Yes.
Director Tamero.
Yes.
Director Sorkin.
No.
Director Anderson.
Yes.
Director Reardon.
Yes.
Director Addy is a yes. Motion passes. Consider resolution relating to the termination, non-renewal of teaching contract Elizabeth Nemi. Director Lotiger.
Abstain.
Director Yuhan.
Yes.
Director Schoberg.
Yes.
Director Tamero. Director Tamero?
Yes.
Okay. Director Sorkin.
No.
Director Anderson. Director Reardon.
Yes.
Director Addy is a yes. Motion passes. 8.15, consider resolution relating to the termination, non-renewal of teaching contract Robert Henderson. Director Lotiger.
Yes.
Director Yuhan.
Yes.
Director Schoberg.
Yes.
Director Tamero.
Yes.
Director Sorkin. Director Anderson. Director Reardon.
Yes.
And Director Addy is a yes as well. Motion passes. 8.16, consider resolution relating to the termination, non-renewal of teaching contract Orland Menzie. The second, is that right? The second? Okay. Director Lotiger.
Yes.
Director Yuhan.
Yes.
Director Schoberg.
Yes.
Director Tamero.
Yes.
Director Sorkin. Director Anderson.
Yes.
Director Reardon.
Yes.
Director Addy is a yes. Motion passes. 8.17, consider resolution relating to the termination, non-renewal of teaching contract Kimberly Galloway. Director Lotiger.
Yes.
Director Yuhan.
Yes.
Director Schoberg.
Yes.
Director Tamero.
Yes.
Director Sorkin.
No.
Director Anderson. Director Reardon.
Yes.
Director Addy is a yes. Motion passes. Eight.
Seven.
What's that?
8.1.
8.18 is what we're on,
8.18.
is the next one.
Yeah, what did I say?
You said motion passes 8.1 or something.
Oh, it says 8.1, 8.18. I was getting to it.
Yeah, you're getting all numbers.
No.
A
No,
lot of numbers on here.
8.18, right? Okay. Consider resolution relating to the termination, non-renewal of teaching contract Amanda Murfin. Director Lotiger.
Yes.
Director Yuhan.
Yes.
Director Schoberg,
Yes.
Director Tamero,
Yes.
Director Sorkin,
Oh.
Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Reardon,
Yes.
Director Addy is a yes. Motion passes. 8.19, consider resolution and termination, non-renewal of contract, teaching contract Bradley Matuzak. Director Lotiger,
Yes.
Director Yuhan,
Yes.
Director Schoberg,
Yes.
Director Tamero,
Yes.
Director Sorkin,
No.
Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Reardon,
Yes.
and Director Addy is a yes. Motion passes. 8.20 was
Removed.
removed. 8.21 was
Oh.
removed.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I made a mistake. I need to vote no for
Save our teachers.
8.18 and 19.
Okay, hang on. So say, what was that? That was 8.9 and
Because I,
8 and 8.19.
I'll vote yes. Can-
8.1,
Yes on those because they're not licensed.
8.18 is a yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I understand they're not licensed.
Procedural question. Once the vote is cast, can you?
Okay, fine, just fine, just fine.
Okay.
Point 20 and 8.21 were removed.
Okay. 8.21 were removed. 8.22. Okay.
Save our teachers. Save our teachers. Save.
Order over there, please. We're trying to conduct business. 8.22, consider approval of non-renewals of the following Title I aides: Carrie Carlson, Parkview; Kathleen Sina, Parkview; Beverly Heidke, Parkview; Tina Pauling, Parkview; Kathleen Petrick, Parkview; Anna Rowan, Roosevelt; Jacqueline Balaj, Roosevelt; Karen Sansom, Roosevelt; Cindy Kujala, Roosevelt; and Treese Stubbs of Roosevelt. This is not a roll call vote on this one, so I will have to consider approval. So can I get a motion on 8.22? By Director Tamero. Can I get support?
Support.
Support by Director Schoberg. All in favor signify.
Discussion.
Oh, any discussion?
Yes, what will be the result of all of these non-renewals? And if we had a need for them last year, why don't we have a need for them next year? I believe I know the answer, but I'd like a little more explanation.
Yep, you do know the answer, because this came up also in the Personnel Committee. The Title I is run differently in the old Virginia district than in the old Evelyn Gilbert district. In the old Virginia district, it has been run, paras have been doing a lot of the work with the kids. And so the admin team has thought a lot about this, and they are recommending that we move away from that model and pool that money together and hire teachers. I heard teachers in the background. And so take that, so the recommendation is to take the money we were spending on these aides, they're not teachers, these are aides, and that we would then hire teachers with that money. So that's the general premise.
And how many hours were the title aides working?
They're working at, each one is a little different, 10 to 14 hours a week.
Okay.
And so this would allow the district to have 0.8 full-time teachers around there. And we feel that with teachers who are specifically trained in phonics and things like that, that they will be more effective in their intervention. That's why.
So you'd be having 2.8 full-time teachers or 1.8 full-time teacher?
We would be able to, about one.
One?
Because in the Virginia side, there's already two who are there teaching in Title I, two full-time.
And so 1.8 would replace all of these title aides?
Yes.
You understand that one of them is a licensed teacher, does have teaching license.
True, but that person is not working as a teacher as
I understand.
determined by the state of Minnesota.
I understand that, but when you talk about having licensed teachers being able to, you know, how did you just say it? Do better, be interventionists and do better, or I hate to say it that way, but however, you said the reason for switching off title aides to teachers with teaching credentials is a benefit.
Correct. That's what we believe will happen as a result of this.
And it's a benefit because they have the training in phonics and.
The teachers who we are putting in there, yes, they will have to.
Okay, and how will we put the teacher, this .8 person in there? Post and advertise, assign, right of assignment?
We will have to advertise for one of the positions. So there, if you say yes, we would send out a general posting to see if anyone's interested in the position.
And internally?
Teachers who has been laid off could certainly apply for that position and be considered.
Just internally first or internally and externally?
I think we would first look for internal.
Is there any contractual language on that, how we have to do it?
Of course.
I mean, I know, I just more familiar with Ablett Gilbert.
Yep. We would first look for an internal. And I believe that is how the teachers union would like us to proceed also.
It would be for a .8, not for a 1.0.
Correct.
And we will have the flexibility with just 1.8 person than multiple people. And or could we send these title aides to training?
Oh, absolutely, yes. They will need to get specific training. Because it is different instructing. These are kids who have not picked it up in the regular classroom. So the intervention has to be different. It can't be the same thing as in the regular classroom.
All right, I understand.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I have a question. At the personnel committee, I thought you mentioned 2.8 positions.
I thought so too.
Total, but we already have teachers in some of those positions.
Are they full-time? 1.0?
One of them, yes. The other one, I think, Dan, is it a .8?
0.4.
0.4.
So, will that person pick up another .4 then? Or somebody else?
This person, we would have to post no matter what. And so this is a new individual who we're hoping it would be someone internal who would express interest, or one of those teachers who was laid off would express interest.
Okay. Or would we not have the right of assignment instead of posting?
You could do that, but I believe the teachers would disagree with that thought. And I believe they would like that to be made available to the whole teaching staff.
That would be, rather than losing a job, I would rather be assigned to something rather than losing my position.
I know, it all depends upon your perspective.
Okay. All right.
Any more discussion on 8.22? Motion by Director Tamro, support by Director Schoberg. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 8.23, accept the resignation of Sue Osman.
I'll move.
Support.
Moved by Director Sorkin, support by Director Lotiger. All in favor signify, or any discussion? Anything on that?
Make sure that we get a letter to her for.
Thank you, Sue, for your service. Thank you.
I would also add to that we send the same type of appreciation letter to Paul Lotiger. He's resigning for retirement. He was under the consent agenda.
Okay. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 9, unfinished business. I have, Noel, is there any unfinished business?
We do not have any.
Okay.
Although, members of the board, I should probably let you know, just because the comment did come up, who saw the job descriptions, who worked through them. we, both sides saw them. I was in a room at one time where every single job description was up on the wall, the smart board, and the entire Ask Me negotiating team was in the room, and we went through each one of the job descriptions, talking about what is in there. So I just want the board to know, Ask Me did see the job description, they did talk to their members, and we did go sequentially through them, and they did make suggestions on them. Mr. Chair, that's my only unfinished business. If you have more.
You stay there. 9.1, board meeting locations to be moved temporarily due to construction beginning in July. Where are we having this?
Unfinished business, there's another item there, that's the 2020 staff letter.
What?
Been there for 2 months, and you've taken no action.
So I can answer the board, I will talk to the board, because this is a school board meeting. So the answer to the question is they will be working on the parking lot in July and August. So we need to find a new home for the school board for the next couple months. So I believe we're going to suggest to move them to Stacy, the Gilbert Media Center.
Yes.
As the best place for setting up the electronics, and it's a big room, it's a good spot. And so the next 2 months, all the board meetings will be in the Gilbert Media Center. That will allow them to work on the parking lot. They don't have to worry about saving any extra spaces for individuals.
Okay.
At one time, we talked about.
How many people will that seat? That, where you're gonna move this meeting?
It's quite big.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
300, 400?
Why do we need, that'd be a nice board meeting if we got that many people to attend.
We'll get them there.
Always move to the auditorium.
Yeah, we go to the auditorium. Yeah, move to the auditorium if we need to.
What about the 2020 staff letter?
I have a question for.
Yeah.
And I-
What?
I-
Visitor, it's not on visitor.
We had brought up that maybe we move the meeting in July
Mm-hmm.
before, now is that, it's going to be July 12th or not?
Virginia usually only has one board meeting.
I do believe we voted on having just one meeting in July.
But I mean,
July 12th, am I correct?
it's July 12th, but I'd also heard that somebody wanted it later.
The 26th?
I think so.
Uh,
Doesn't make any difference to me. I just had
Better
heard
to
that.
me.
Was it maybe possibly because of construction updates? Or construction, something we needed to vote on?
Yes, for the Kimley, the construction crew had asked that if possible, you would have the later board meeting, because then they could come to you with an update and any additional things that you need to approve because of certain timeframes that were in there. But you do not need to change your board meeting because they asked you to do that.
I'm with Murray. I think it would be more productive if we did it later. I mean,
right.
and two weeks from now with a holiday in between, not a whole lot might happen, and as fast as things are happening in the next 2 weeks, I think if.
Would you say the 19th then, Noel,
Well,
or
that's-
the 26th?
That's item number 10 that we'll be discussing.
It's coming up.
I do have unfinished business before you leave, but if you'd like to discuss this, how to proceed with public viewing of the meeting first, I will wait. Otherwise, I have a couple of things for unfinished business.
That would be Mike or Noel going to talk about
I
9.0.
checked, what was the topic again?
How to proceed with public viewing of meetings and participation during the relocation
Oh,
period.
that's coming up is the official pandemic is ebbing. We know it's still out, the COVID is still out there. However, the question is, how would you like future board meetings to be run? Would you like to just go to all in-person meetings? Do you want to continue doing Zoom meetings? That's what that question is. How, rolling forward, how would you like as a board to have your meetings? That's what that question
I
is.
think there's direction from the state and the department on that, for each meeting, somebody supposedly, I have a paper here, is supposedly declare the pandemic a reason for having remote meetings. And we haven't ever done that, and we're not declaring the pandemic situation right now. And so I totally agree with whoever wanted that on the agenda, because even our notifications, I don't think reflect what we are doing, what we were doing, and what we should be doing as far as notifying the public that they have a right to come in person to the meeting.
Who's denying the people to come to the meetings?
I don't think anybody's denying.
Website that we can't come. Exactly.
I would argue that all day long with you.
No, but don't.
But I'm just saying it's,
I'm in support of all in-person.
In-person, should be in-person.
I'd like the opportunity, obviously, to continue with putting it on YouTube or whatever, so people can view without having to be here. Because I know there's a lot of people that do prefer in.
And that still is possible, Mike. If the board goes to full in-person meetings, the meeting still could be viewed by someone on YouTube with the.
I think it's been that way for quite some time.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done it before the pandemic.
Yeah, but, so yeah, I believe it would be like broadcast by public access, live on YouTube. And then also it could be presented on the public access later, right?
Yes, I did hear from Hugo today. It could go live on YouTube and later viewing. Yeah.
So the only thing really we'd be losing or looking away with would be the Zoom aspect of it.
I agree with you, Brandy. We should have full meetings here, and if our audience, if someone wants to talk, they have to come here.
That's right.
And over Zoom as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And again, I know we need to take direction because before the pandemic and before the COVID interpretations of how to run meetings, there's just generic statutory language on open meeting law of how somebody like say John tonight, or if it were me, you have to have different stipulations. It would have to be a 10-day notice if somebody was going to view remote. We had this with Young that time.
Yeah.
And we didn't do it right, well, I wasn't on the board then. But then you have to have it in a public place where the public can come and they have to be notified. So we're talking about two different things here. Let's not get them mixed up. But I'd say let's take directions, get direction from the Office of Administrative Hearings and the Department of Ed on how to interpret that.
But I think.
And to change our meetings now, because it's not that simple.
You want to do.
I would like to make a motion to continue or to have our meetings in person, but have the option of YouTube option for people at home that just want to view. But if anybody wants to speak, they have to come in person to speak.
Okay, we can do that.
All right.
Support that.
Thank you. I need to made a motion, and it was supported by Tom.
Well, let's just turn it into that. The motion by Lotiger, by Director Tamero, to have all of our meetings in person with the option to YouTube or to Zoom or YouTube in.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
Or whatever way they would like to do it with IT.
Okay. All in favor of that?
Discussion, and I'm not sure that we can make that stipulation to make people come in if they can view it.
Come on, Paul.
I'm just saying, I'm not.
You're saying we don't give that option to come here, and now they're here, and then now you're saying we can't give them that option.
I'm not sure that we can tell them they can't Zoom in to make their visitor input versus having to be here. That's all I'm.
Not going to Zoom. What I'm suggesting is that we use public access 12 or YouTube.
Yeah, we need.
We're saying, but I think that has to do with IT, and IT's job is to figure out how we can.
I understand, and I will support that, but I'm just saying, I don't know for sure that we can restrict people from not visitor inputting from Zoom. I would just like that checked out, that's all.
Well, what does Zoom cost us to run these meetings? Or Mike, do you have an idea?
I don't have it in front of me right now. I definitely.
So we're doing away with that cost entirely by having people come here. That's what I'm looking at.
Don't you just pay a yearly fee or something for a certain package?
For this system here, we pay right around $1,000 a year.
And we can use it multiple ways.
Yeah.
We can use it any way we want for meetings or, right? So.
We have a motion and a second. I trust our administration will make sure we aren't doing anything illegal and will keep us all in good graces with the law.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carried.
John was an aye.
John?
Yes. Item 10, meeting announcement.
Oh, wait, I had,
What about the staff letter?
Was it, I didn't set the agenda and it wasn't on the agenda?
It's unfinished business from 2 months ago.
Take it up.
There's nothing here.
I
Okay.
don't care what you have there.
Excuse me,
I
sir.
requested that be referred to the personnel committee 2 months ago.
Item 10.
no, I still have some unfinished business, remember? I
Well, we're past that. We're on
I
9
respectfully waited. Remember I said I would wait until you had that second one?
Okay.
Yeah, the unfinished business that I am thinking of is at the last board meeting, the board went into a closed session. Then it came out and it passed a resolution. And so I guess I'm still wondering as a board member, and according to the minutes, it was mentioned of some writ. I still don't have a copy of that writ, what it said. I know I was in the closed meeting, so I heard the discussion of what it was about. But then I left and the board gave Noel authority to negotiate with the attorneys in the city of Evelyn and their attorneys some new contract, a new amendment to the agreement that we already had. And I guess I'm wondering, has that happened? Is there a new agreement? Isn't there? What's the status of that? That's unfinished business in my opinion.
I have an answer for you. We did come up with agreement with the city of Ellis. I will send you the amendment to the agreement. That agreement was used, as you know, there was a lawsuit against the school district that did go to court. The Rockridge School District prevailed. The judge dismissed the suit. And so that is the end of that. And so, but I will send the board members what that amendment says.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then whatever the lawsuit was, you mentioned something called a writ. And I think when I listened to the video again, you, Bill, or some of the others said, well, we're giving you the authority to go ahead and do that, but we'd like to see it before it happens. And so I'd like to have a copy. I think all of us would, because it was
But the board
mentioned.
needs to understand that if we start doing any more legal language, I'm going to pause and walk over there and stop talking.
No, I just wanted an update. Wanted an update on your negotiating of the contract, wondered if it has been negotiated, and I'd like a copy of it.
Yep.
And,
Provide you with it.
okay, and has the city
City
vote,
approved it, yes.
did the council, or did they give their mayor, the
Council approved it.
council approved it at a meeting?
Understanding, yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to get information. 3.0. That's it.
Okay, moving on, 10.1. Our regular next meeting will be on July 12th. Is that to be a true statement? Yeah. On July 12th, 2021, 6 PM. Huh?
26 sounds better.
I thought we just agreed,
Okay,
or I brought it up.
I'll make a motion to that effect to have it on that.
on the 26th at the Media Center in Gilbert. Okay, so item 10.1 for clarification, our next regular meeting will be held Monday, July 26th at 6 PM in the Media Center in Gilbert.
Just one question or clarification. And I know the summer is different and one meeting in that month, but we could have it on the 19th. Would there be enough business that the board has to take action on, Noel, by not waiting that whole month and maybe having it on the 19th? Because sometimes things build up and you say, well, we have to have a meeting because legally the board has to vote on this. How about the 19th? Is that a good?
The answer is the school board certainly could have a second meeting in July. I believe it will be a thin agenda. I am not aware of a lengthy logjam of decisions that you would have to make a decision on in a couple weeks.
I wasn't referring.
Safely wait.
Yeah, I wasn't referring to two. I was saying that the one meeting, would it work out to have it on the 19th? But you're saying there won't be any pressing business. We could still do business on the 20th.
Tell me, when do you want to meet?
It would have to be a special meeting then if we moved to the 19th, correct? Okay.
I and I just asked the question.
Okay. All right.
Motion to do July 26th?
Yes.
I'll support.
So we got support by Director Sorkin,
Motion by me.
motion by Director Sorkin, and support by Director Lotiger. have our next regular scheduled meeting on Monday, July 26th at 6 PM in the Gilbert Media Center. All in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for